This is PropertyBT, a podcast of BT correspondents.
Home sweet home. A home is close to many people's hearts. A place to escape, unwind, get respite, and build memories in a fast-changing and at times turbulent world. Welcome to PropertyBT, part of the BT Correspondence Podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Yee, Senior Correspondent of the Business Times. Today, I do a deep dive into how buyers and tenants search for homes, what attributes users prioritize, how AI can help, and whether Singaporeans are overly fond of buying homes. My guest is Yao Lu, Managing Director, Singapore of PropertyGuru Group, Southeast Asia's largest property technology company. Joining from outside the property industry, Yao Lu assumed this role in September 2025. Welcome, Yao Lu.
Thank you for inviting me here.
Yao Lu, maybe you can share briefly what you do at PropertyGuru and how your transition into the property space has been. Has moving into the property space been challenging?
My job at PropertyGuru is making sure that we serve the consumer need with the most accurate and comprehensive listings on the real estate properties in Singapore. So our primary mandate is to make the agent's life easier in serving their clients, and at the same time, making sure that we serve the consumers the most trustworthy and reliable information throughout their property seeking journey. My transition into this role has actually been quite interesting. It is firstly a foreign industry to me. I came from an outside industry. Secondly, the industry itself moves in a way that is much more integrated with people's financial decisions. There are life stages and the lifestyle choices that people have. So that gives it multiple dimensions for me to work on. And for me, that really is both exhilarating and challenging.
Interesting. Finding the right home matters, right? As people spend a lot of time at home, also spend a lot of money on a home.
Of course.
However, there are plenty of options when people look for a home, and space users need to be discerning, right, to get bang for buck and find a suitable home. Yao Lu, how do buyers and tenants search for homes in Singapore?
I think the way that buyers and tenants are searching for homes in Singapore today has become very different from how people used to do it 10, 15 years ago. It is a lot less linear as compared to before. So in the past, I have a location in my mind. I have a budget in my mind. I have a space requirement in my mind. I will go to print media, newspaper. I will go to a property search portal like PropertyGuru to look for that particular type of housing. And once I view a couple of those listings, I will call the agent and move forward. Today, it is becoming a lot less linear in two ways. One, the way people gather information and get answers for themselves are becoming a lot more broad. So we see the emergence of social media, online news, as well as search engines becoming increasingly critical part of how people process that information. In the past, we used to see majority of the traffic to PropertyGuru coming from search engines. But today, you see listings getting visits from a video, newsfeed, a Instagram post, a YouTube video. And so the starting point is very different, even though many of the requests still land in PropertyGuru.
Interesting. You referred to the fact that in the past, people had a strict budget location preference. So are people a bit more open to different locations today when they search for a home? Also, in terms of people who come to your platform, are they mostly the younger group or does it include older individuals as well?
I think location is still probably one of the most important factors when people come to choosing their homes or a place to rent. What is different today is that with more towns getting developed, with the public transport system being a lot more developed today, people could value other things over purely just the location. Therefore, we see that people tend to be a little bit more open-minded about location and prioritize their lifestyle, their life stage needs over purely that single factor. Now, Moving on to the second question, we do serve pretty much all the consumer needs across the wide spectrum of ages. We don't see any particular group that really stand out in terms of the representation of the demography on our platform.
I guess understanding what people want is very important. Our population is changing. Today, we're more singles, more seniors, for example. Also, lifestyles are evolving. Yao Lu, if you look out a couple of years, what do you see buyers giving more priority to when choosing a home?
First of all, when it comes to choosing a home, it is highly personal, and there's never a right home for everyone. Last year, we ran a consumer survey, and what we have identified is that, let's take the examples of high-income singles. Two age groups, 30 to 34, 35 to 39. Now, for the 30 to 34 group, 42% of them want private housing. But you move a little bit further, 35 to 39 group, 52% of them actually want HDB housing that are 4 rooms and bigger. So even within such a unique group, just when the age differ by a couple of years, you start to see the preference differ. When we look at dual income married couples without children, 34% of them actually put investment return as the top factor in determining their next home purchase. When we look at seniors who are 65 and above, 73% of them told us that their best home, their most ideal home, is where they stay. They have no plan to move anywhere. Right. Contrary to a lot of the downgrading conversations that we hear anecdotally, actually, by and large, most of them want to stay where they are. So I felt that the conversation of buyers finding their ideal homes is a lot more personal, it's a lot more nuanced. And I think at the end of the day, my job at PropertyGuru is really to serve each and everyone's needs.
Great. We've talked quite a bit about home buyers. Singapore is a global city. Many foreigners live here because they work or study here. Some locals also rent homes, perhaps while waiting to buy a home or collect their keys to their new home. Yao Lu, what trends do you observe in the home leasing market?
Yeah, the home leasing market is a very interesting one. First of all, I will start with our platform supply data. We have observed a significant tightening in the HDB rental listings on PropertyGuru over the past year. In fact, year on year, we have seen listings coming down by about 20%. And majority of the rental listings on PropertyGuru are room rentals. When you look at specifically whole unit rentals, that number has come down by 30% over the same period. Now, having said that, what we have noticed is that recently the government has announced the 15-month wait that is mandatory for private homeowners when it comes to buying HDB. That wait is no longer needed. So we hypothesize that there will likely be a reduction in terms of the transitional rental needs for some of these families who are looking to buy a public housing flat. On the other hand, when we look at demand perspective, we need to be very clear. For majority of the Singaporeans and the Singapore PRs, rental is actually not a mainstream choice. It still remains a relatively minority option. Again, I refer back to the consumer survey that we did last year. Only 8% of the people intend to actually rent. But amongst them, what is interesting is that for the 25 to 29 age group, the rental intent is the highest. So we followed up a little bit this year with a recent Gen Z-based survey, and that result is even more revealing. For the group aged between 21 and 29, 4 out of 5 Singaporeans are thinking of moving out and finding a place to live by themselves. But then when you look a little bit deeper, only 15% of them have actually chosen to do so. So financial readiness as well as personal readiness remain the highest barriers to them making that choice for themselves. But nevertheless, overall, if you look at Singapore citizens and PRs, I think rental still remains a minority choice for majority of the people.
I guess a traditional view is that money spent paying rent is wasted for young adults who have the option of living at home with parents. But living at home can feel restrictive for a young adult. Recently, there's even a scheme under SG Youth Plan where Singaporeans from ages 21 to 35 can rent rooms at a 30% discount at selected co-living properties. Yao Lu, do you see more young locals looking to rent homes?
It is deserving of a wider discussion from the government side and also with the youth groups to really understand what is the need among the youths and also to really provide flexible and affordable housing options for them. But as I have mentioned earlier, amongst all the people that we have surveyed, even though there's a very high intention to move out, I think people are held behind because of personal readiness and because of financial readiness. In fact, in our survey, what we have found out is that they are roughly 50-50. So while they are yearning for independence, at the same time, they are also weighing between whether it's really worth doing it or should I just go straight to purchasing a property where I'm a little bit more financially prepared.
Great. I think we have quickly gotten to grips with how buyers and tenants search for homes as well as the priorities in choosing the ideal home. A very quick shout out for those who want to learn more about the housing rental market. Recently, in the Level Ground in Business Times, I wrote a piece titled Meet Rental Housing Demand by Letting Developers Keep Ownership of Some Condo Units Without Hefty Penalties. Still to come, insights on how AI is impacting the sale and rental of homes. Also, thoughts on the love of Singaporeans for owning homes. That's after the break.
Market Focus Weekly, now hosted by Howie Lim. A sharp weekly deep dive into what's moving markets in Singapore and across the region. With analysts and market insiders to break down the forces shaping the week ahead. New episodes every Friday, powered by the journalism of the Business Times. Find Market Focus Weekly wherever you get your podcasts.
And now, back to PropertyBT, a podcast of BT correspondents.
Welcome back to PropertyBT. I'm Leslie Yee. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is everything, everywhere, all at once. In short, AI's influence is inescapable across many fields. Yao Lu, how is AI helping agents, home buyers, and tenants?
First of all, let's address them in a separate group. When it comes to agents, we are now providing a lot more tools to make their job easier so they can really focus on building that rapport with their clients. The examples I have in my mind are some new products that we have recently surfaced. The first one is called Listing Copilot. The second one is an AI Listing Studio. So they will allow, for example, just through a natural language chat, automatically create a new listing based on the angle that a particular agent wants to sell the home. So it really removes a lot of the mundane work of uploading the pictures, enhancing the pictures, refining their text messages, and making it a lot easier for them to list. And then with the time saved, they can then better serve the clients that they have. When it comes to the consumers, I see AI really applied across three main domains. The first one is where do they start their journey? I would say in the past, very often you start with social media accounts, you start with a Google search. But today, increasingly, we're seeing people starting their first search on properties through AI search engines such as Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT. Right now, to our platform, the total traffic coming from AI search engine is still less than 5%, but that number has been growing exponentially against a very large visitorship that we have on a monthly basis. The second part is how we see people search for information. When people come to PropertyGuru, there are AI-led search sessions called Guru GPT that we have implemented since later last year. It allows people to use natural language to ask property-related questions, to search for listings, to really understand their needs before we help them find their ideal homes and give them the listings that they are looking for. And the third piece is how we then use AI to enhance the consumer trust. So for example, in the past, we have encountered cases where the photos have been enhanced or listing descriptions are not completely accurate. So what we have launched last year is an AI listing moderation engine that allow us to quickly identify what are the images that have been heavily enhanced that we cannot justify beyond reasonable doubt, and therefore we'll flag them and get human intervention to double check.
As a consumer, we can be kind of assured that the information in all these visuals we see are accurate. Is that the purpose?
That's what we strive for. With those three things, where the search starts, how the information is gathered, and finally, how do we build trust through reliable data, consistent experience, and stronger empathy in guiding people through that very difficult journey? I think those are the things we see AI increasingly becoming integrated in the home search journey.
PropertyGuru is obviously a very important tool for many property agents. Singapore has many property agents, and talented young people here continue to aspire to become property agents. I suppose some agents make very good money from the housing market. Yao Lu, with AI, will there be a need for far fewer property agents than what we have today?
Perhaps the way I understand this is that AI ultimately is a tool that allows us to becoming very efficient on processes that are highly manual, repetitive. But I think at the center of this conversation around homes is trust. I think that trust that an agent is able to demonstrate and the trusted advice that they bring to the clients, the data points that PropertyGuru presents to the potential consumers, these are parts that cannot be easily replaced by AI. And that's why I think to say that with AI we need fewer agents is probably an unrealistic statement at this point of time.
Given how important a financial decision buying a home is, I suppose agents will still have an important role to play. Yao Lu, your platform PropertyGuru is popular with agents, buyers and tenants. I think you occupy a very enviable position in the Singapore market. Is PropertyGuru too dominant in the local listings market? Is there room for it to grow further in Singapore?
I would like to address this question from two angles. The first angle is, what role does PropertyGuru play in the home search journey? And the second one is, well, given the reach and scale, what do we do with it? So on the first hand, I think to say that PropertyGuru is too dominant is to say that we are the only channel where people gather information. But as I have shared earlier, the home search journey is a lot less linear. Nowadays, people actually gather information from many, many different channels. And with that, I actually feel that the competition for people's attention and for people's mind space is getting more intense. Now, on the other hand, as a property listing portal, PropertyGuru does have a certain privileged position in terms of the scale of listings, as well as the reach of audience that we have. And I don't take that for granted. So if we want to continue to grow our platform, what we need to do is to really go back to the original mandate and the promise that we have for the consumers, which is, am I able to provide you trustworthy information and accurate information reliably? Am I able to explain myself with good transparency? Am I able to deliver a great consumer experience consistently? So if we continue to work on those, I think it will help us earn more trust with the consumers, but at the same time also allow us to help them find better agents, better homes that fit their needs a lot faster. And from that perspective, that's the experience and trust we hope to continue to strengthen with the consumers.
Indeed, building trust matters, but so does value for money, right? Singapore can be expensive, but hopefully offers value for money for businesses and visitors. PropertyGuru makes money from agents listing on the platform, and many agents use your platform. Yao Lu, does PropertyGuru offer value for money to agents, and how do you ensure you continue to offer a strong value proposition? Also, is the HDB's resale listing portal a threat to your platform?
Internally, we have many set of data that showcase our value to the agents. What we have seen is that when our customers list their properties, we tend to see outcomes that are in line with the expectation and in line with how motivated the agents are in driving listings visibility and in improving the quality of the listings. I will summarize the return of value for the agents are proportionate. And in fact, sometimes we do better than proportional for the agents who are really deeply motivated. So from that perspective, I feel we are very well justified in terms of value for the agents. Now, in terms of the HDB listing portal, I always welcome healthy competition from any of the platforms or channels, and we expect that as well. The only thing we can do is to make sure that we continue to build a stronger proposition. We will do our best to serve the needs. And from that perspective, we will do those things regardless of competition.
Singapore does have a high home ownership rate, and owning a home anchors many locals to this little red dot. Home ownership also helps locals build wealth, as the home accounts for a large part of the wealth of many households. But is money poured into housing great for building a dynamic and productive economy? Yao Lu, are Singaporeans overly fond of buying homes? Will this love for homes persist?
So owning a home has always been part of the national story that we have for Singaporeans. And the love for home is probably not only limited to people from Singapore. It's also a shared love by people across the world. Having said that, I think owning a home in Singapore means something. It means that we are putting down our roots here, that we're ready to build families. We're ready to own a stake in a place that we call home. So with all the things in mind, I don't find the love for homes strange or surprising. In fact, being a citizen of this country, I feel immensely proud that we have the ability for a majority of us to have a place that we call home.
Yao Lu, you come from a strong technology background. Do you find the property technology space an exciting one to be in? And what's on the horizon that's really exciting in this space?
Property tech space is actually immensely exciting to me for two reasons. One, with properties and homes. For me, I have a huge stake in it. Being an ordinary citizen, I have a home and I aspire to have a place that fits my life stages over the next 10, 20 years. The second part of it is that I think this industry really runs on the word trust. I kept emphasizing that because how do we get people to really rely on information, rely on people that they have never met before to really help them and guide them to the biggest financial investment or decision that anyone gets to make ever in their life? So from that perspective, I feel there's immense interest from me as a homeowner, but at the same time, there's also immense pressure on me to really make sure that we're able to meet the home buyers and renters' expectations and guide them through that journey.
Yao Lu, I think you're absolutely spot on. I mean, many of us in Singapore have a stake in the housing market. I wish you well as you harness technology to make the housing transaction and leasing market work better for all stakeholders. It has been my pleasure having you share your insights. Thank you, Yao Lu, for being on the program.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
That's it for PropertyBT this week. Happy property hunting. BT correspondents will be back with an all-new episode on markets. So do subscribe to our channel and check it out. If you have any thoughts or questions about the show, email us at btpodcasts@sph.com.sg. This episode was produced by Nicole Teo and Chai Pei Chia, together with our editor Clarissa Montero, and was written and presented by me. I'm Leslie Yee. As always, thank you for listening. See you.
This is a podcast by the Business Times. Find more BT podcasts at businesstimes.com.sg/podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast is meant to provide general information only. SPH Media accepts no liability for loss arising from any reliance on the podcast or use of third parties' products and services. Please consult professional advisors for independent advice.